2, 3, 4.
Hello and welcome to Chit Chat with Jed and Co, the show where everyone has their say. Today's show comes from Studio 23. Can we ask you please subscribe free to our YouTube channel, comment and give us a like. Now today's show is sponsored by St Mirren legend Tony Fitzpatrick's Legacy Comps Prize Bonanza, where you can win some fantastic prizes, and there's a daily cash builder where you can get a guaranteed £1,000 a day for only 99 pence a ticket. One of Tony's main objectives is to help youth sports clubs, charities and general good causes. Can we ask you please give them a follow on legacycomps.com. Now today's guests, I'm absolutely buzzing to welcome Joshua and Kevin McLaughlin. Now, I, like millions and millions and millions of people around the globe, were gripped by Joshua's story. It's absolutely incredible, and to have you here today. Now, Joshua, our viewers are going to be gripped to your story. But before we go on and talk about your story, which started at Celtic Park with BSC Young Boys and the YB Oscurve, let's chat about your football journey and how it began. How does that sound? Does that sound all right? Absolutely brilliant. Now, even on the day you were born, you have a connection to Celtic in the Champions League. And I believe there was a funny story, Joshua. Tell us about that.
The day I was born, Celtic lost 7-0 to Barcelona. And at one point my dad was changing me. He was watching the game on his phone and the doctors gave him into trouble.
That was it. Kevin was in the naughty step even the day you were born. Now I believe, Kevin, welcome to the show. There was a story about Joshua's first ever Celtic game. Share that with us.
Well, first of all, Jed, thanks for inviting Joshua and myself on to Chit Chat.
You're very welcome.
Jed and Co to tell his story. It's very much appreciated. Joshua's first game as a Celtic fan at the ground was in May 2022. It was Trophy Day. He'd been asking me for a long time to take him to a game. I said I would take him when he was 5, and eventually we got to go to that game. It was the last game of the season.
Yep.
Remember the game, who it was against and what the score was?
Motherwell 6-0.
Okay.
Do you remember your granny gave you pennies and what you brought home after you bought it from Granny's pennies?
A Kyogo flag.
Do you think you'll get to use that Kyogo flag again? Do you think it might come back?
Maybe.
You never know. How many games have you been to now, Joshua? You've been to a lot, eh?
33 or something.
33. My goodness. Now, Joshua, we're here today to share this fantastic story. As I said, it gripped me and millions of fans all over the world. I mean, I work in football, and I people from Spain and people I've met in the street, and when I tell them you're coming on our show today, they just cannot believe it, that we'll get a superstar in the making right here with Chit Chat with Jed and Co. Now, BSC Young Boys came to Celtic Park on the 22nd of January this year. Tell us about the lead up to the game on that day and how the story started, Kevin. How did it come about?
Well, Jed, personally speaking, I've been a football fan all my life. I've always followed Celtic. I've been a season ticket holder for as long as I can remember. I've been to countless away European games. I love my trips, and I've seen dozens of top European sides come to Celtic Park. Outstanding supports from recent memory would be Bodo Glimt, Borussia Mönchengladbach, Feyenoord, just in terms of what they brought to the occasion. But I can sit here honestly, hand in heart, and say that I've never seen anything at Celtic Park like the BSC Young Boys support, the YB Oscurve that came to Celtic Park earlier this year. Obviously, since going to all those games through my life, it's taken a different direction, but a lovely direction in the last few years where Joshua comes along. I would have said he's my right-hand man, but I'm really his right-hand man now. And we go to most games at home. And it was a Wednesday afternoon in January. I picked him up from school. We went home, had a bite to eat, left early to get up to the ground. And Joshua's got a bit of a pre-match routine, if you like, where when we get to the ground, we always guess who's going to be the Celtic player on the front of the programme. I can remember guessing it would be Alistair Johnston that night. Joshua, who did you guess it would be?
Nicholas Kuhn.
Yeah, Jed. Look who got it right again.
Joshua again. There you are, Joshua. The pattern evolving here.
So from there, we get into the stadium, and when the teams come out, we get the notification on the phone. Joshua likes to ring round a few of the family and tell them what the team is. So from there, we made our way to our seats, and from the second we actually stepped out into the stadium itself to go to our seats, Joshua was mesmerised by the YB Oscar. They were away in the far corner. They had everything: noise, colour, good vibes, a real presence, just a real happy support. And what for me personally was more impressive about it was match day 7 of 8. They were already out of the competition, so it would have been easy for them to have a more relaxed approach, but no, absolutely not. They were away in that corner and singing away for their lives, and I would call them very, very vibrant and spectacular. So we went to our seats and the game started. Big game for Celtic, match day 7 of 8. Really had to win to get through to the last 16 playoffs, because the following week was a tough game away to Aston Villa. On paper, Celtic were hot favourites, but the game was anything but a formality. It was a really, really difficult game. 3 disallowed goals in the first half, missed penalty. And as the game wore on, I was getting a bit nervous. BSC young boys were, making their own mark, really played well against us. And the crowd was getting a bit nervous. And finally, Celtic got the goal. 5 minutes to go. It was an own goal by the BSC young boys captain, Loris Benito, who will form a little part of the story later on. And the final whistle went and the stadium erupted in joy. Now, Joshua and myself, we've got a bit of a post-match routine where our seats are right in line with the halfway line at the back of the North Stand lower. And when the fourth official holds up the board to say how long's left, we make our way right down to the front, so that by the time the final whistle goes, we're actually standing at the front at the halfway line. And when the Celtic manager and the players come round at the end to applaud the fans, Joshua has got a front row seat, or in this case, a front row standing spot. And on that occasion, you got a wee wave from the manager, didn't you? You looked directly at Joshua and gave him a little wave, and Joshua was ecstatic, and then all the kids round about were cheering all the players. On that particular evening, at that point, as the Celtic players made their way around the ground, something happened there at that point which maybe just set the tone for what was about to unfold. The BSC young boys fullback, the Algerian lad, Jaween Hadjam, came across to where the fans were. It was right at the halfway line, at the touchline. He came across to get a drink of water. And as he came across, he was applauding the Celtic fans, which was remarkable in itself, because the lad was entitled to be disappointed and go straight down the tunnel. But he came across, he was crouched down, waving to the kids, having a drink, and came across, shook some of the kids' hands, and even gave one of the kids his jersey. A lovely touch, Jed. So again, Jaween Hadjam forms a part of the story later on, so we'll come back to him. So do you want to tell Jed where we go at the end of every game once we've seen the players, where we go to?
We walk over to the Green Brigade and stand there and watch them. And then at one point I said to my dad, can we go over and wave to the BSC Young Boys support? So he asked one of the stewards, how do we get over? And the steward said, you can walk through the seats. So when we got there, we started to applaud them. And then we went to the bathroom, and then I said to my dad, can we go back out? So then we went back out. I walked out the door, and they're just applauding me. And that's how it all happened.
Wow.
It's lovely, Jed.
And obviously that's the clip that's went round the world to millions and millions. I think that it's in the tens of millions now, isn't it, Kevin?
Jed, it's been, watched by and shared by countless people globally. As Joshua says, after we'd seen the Green Brigade, we walked through the seats. By that stage, the ground is empty, and if you can imagine.
Yeah.
But the Oscar are still in the corner. They're kept in. And as we were walking up the stairs, the section of seats behind us you see in the film, Joshua was waving to the fans and applauding them.
Just honestly, and to me, it doesn't matter what team you follow, what team you support. For me, looking in, what that's done, it shows respect in how football can bring fans together, no matter their age. As you said at the start of the interview, they were already out the tournament. And
Absolutely.
it just shows you that football is a global game. Now, at that point, Kevin, obviously you just took a clip of Joshua. Did you realise how big it was going to get? And when did you realise, wow, something's happening here?
I'd absolutely no idea, Jed, of what I had in my hands. As Joshua says, we'd wave to the fans. He asked to go to the bathroom. We went out onto the sort of concourse, and then came back up. And as we opened the door to come out, the wall of applause just hit us because we'd been standing there for about a minute and a half. And there's a really crucial part of the clip that's paramount to the story. If you don't mind, I'd like to explain. When you watch the clip, the original one that I recorded, which was 21 seconds long, Joshua's slowly walking towards the Oscar because they were, the noise was really deafening from them. It was lovely. In the bottom of the clip, there's two fans that have come across to actually give Joshua a scarf, and you can see them walking away. And Joshua himself, so you hear me saying, go and wave to them, Joshua, because the noise is increasing all the time. And Joshua sort of looks at the fans, and you can see them encouraging them to do that. And that sort of sets him off to walk towards them and then do his little routine, which was the actual, the lovely part of the whole clip. And those two fans in that part of the video deserve enormous credit, because perhaps if they hadn't encouraged Joshua to do that, all this wouldn't have happened. And as well as them, the amazing reception the supporters gave him. When you say about what we had in our hands, I had no idea, Jed, the love that would bring. We drove home that night, and I was later quoted as saying the car was like chitty chitty bang bang. It could have flown home. Joshua was hyper as to what had happened, and we went home. And looking back, I'm probably thinking that I was quite casual about the whole thing in terms of the little video I had on my phone, because we went home, we made something to eat, didn't we?
Yeah.
And then we watched the highlights of the game, watched the goal again. It was very late, probably after midnight by the time Joshua went to bed. And even at that, I still came back down, watched a bit of the game, did some preparation for work the next day, and only then did I go to X, formerly Twitter, and share it. By that stage, I'd put it in a few threads, if you like, with some friends and family, and I put it out there. And I had a look at it before I went to bed, and I could see the momentum growing. And I got up very early the next morning, and my phone was across on the table, and it was literally lit up like a Christmas tree. And when I looked at it, it was full of notifications, messages, and there was one from my sister, and she says, you need to look at that clip on Twitter. And by that stage, 5 or 6 hours later, it was close to 1 million views. Wow. It had gone viral. It had gone absolutely crazy, Jed.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, I was saying the aftermath, and you realising what you had. What kind of sources covered it, Kevin? Because I know you were saying, off camera that your phone, obviously you said your phone was ringing off the hook as well. What kind of sources got in touch?
As you say, it was ringing off the hook. Looking back, Jed, I was probably overwhelmed by it all. I didn't maybe realise at the time. Through the course of the day, lots of people were getting in touch. One of the very, very first messages I got, I wasn't hard to find that day, was through PM on Twitter to invite Joshua and myself onto the Clyde Super Scoreboard phone-in that night to talk about the story. By that stage, it was going absolutely mental. During the course of the day, there was lots of people getting in touch. Norwegian TV messaged me as well, said, could we use the clip? Sources were sharing it, credited me with a video. Sport Bible sent a message, do you mind if we share that? There was some other various sporting sources. And then a little bit later in the day, I got a snapshot of Fabrizio Romano having put it on his page. In terms of sport and social media, it has to be the ultimate, Jed.
Wow.
So, at this stage, I'm still trying to concentrate on work. Go about the normal day by getting Joshua from school. Well, my phone is literally exploding. And that evening, we went on to Clyde Super Scoreboard to speak about the story, and they asked us to explain it. And probably the lovely part of that is I actually inconvenienced Joshua to come on Super Scoreboard because he had his headphones in. You were playing Fortnite with your pals, weren't you?
Yeah.
He was like, oh, Dad, do I have to? So we went on Super Scoreboard, and a lovely fella, Robbie from the Glasgow Evening Times, Robbie Hanratty, he got in touch asking if he could do a piece on it as well. So by the time we went on Clyde Super Scoreboard, which was maybe 7:30 at night, I think, if I remember rightly from the recording, they said it's something like 2.5 million views on X, not counting TikTok or any other source. Amazing.
So it was catching on. It really was. And again, I'll reiterate to you, have you here today? Our viewers are, I'm gripped to this already, and the viewers are, I'm sure, will be the same. Now, what happened in the weeks? Obviously, that was the initial, Kevin, the reaction. What happened in the weeks in the clip? Obviously, it was building momentum with the YB Os curve. And then I believe there was contact from BSC Young Boys themselves. What happened there?
So, Jed, very slowly, my phone started to get back to normal. And what I tried to do, because it was such a lovely and emotional occasion, if you like, for myself and Joshua's mum as his parents, tried to respond to as many people as I could. Thank you very much. And slowly, things started to die down a little bit. Joshua had been asking for a BSC Young Boys home kit and football. And I connected with the gentleman in Switzerland in their online fan shop, explained what had happened. He knew the story, as it later transpired most of Switzerland did. And I was explaining to him I wanted to get a strip sent across, so he was very, very helpful and kept in touch and let me know when he'd sent it off. And it was a Friday afternoon, maybe about 3 weeks after the evening that Joshua and the YB Os curve at Celtic Park went viral. So Friday afternoon in February, typical cold Friday afternoon, Joshua came home from school and I surprised him with his BSC Young Boy strip. Do you remember the first thing he did? He went into the garden, a freezing cold February, and he started playing football, and he was filthy within 10 minutes. Great, typical 8-year-old.
And that's what it's all about. And to see you sitting there with your kit on today, Joshua, it's just absolutely brilliant.
So from there, Jed, I'd said I would let the gentleman know the parcel had arrived, and I went to my phone to email him. It was really just coincidental timing, a lovely coincidence. I opened my mail and looked at my inbox, and there was an email from a gentleman named Shields. And the subject was special experience for Joshua, invitation to Bern. As you can imagine, when I saw that mail, I'm like, what on earth? And I opened it up, and I think I must have read it, Jed, about 10 times. And it was a gentleman from the social media and marketing department at BSC Young Boys. It was a lovely email, an invitation for Joshua, myself and his mum to go across to Bern, and they would give him an experience in the stadium. He said on it, we'll take care of all arrangements, and if it's not suitable for you, we can send across a parcel for Joshua. So, as you can imagine, I made it clear it was suitable for us.
On our way.
Yeah, I was really dying to tell Joshua and his mum the story, but there was so much going on at work that day as well and in the house. So maybe an hour or two later, when I'd closed for the day at work, we sat down in the living room and I read the email out to Joshua and his mum. Do you remember me reading the email out to you? How happy you were?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, and that's, you know, the story is gaining momentum with the views, and now you're on your way to Switzerland, Joshua. Wow, absolutely one of the most fantastic countries in the world. And you know, tell us about the build up to you know, you're going to Switzerland. What was it like to you know, to just to build up and to get there? What was that? How did explain that? How did it happen?
Well, I can tell you how I felt. I felt happy. I felt
But your friends were jealous,
uh,
Joshua. Eh? What were they saying to you? Were they excited for you?
they were saying how did that happen, and I was saying it 10 times in the one day to them. There was so many of them asking.
Well, there you go. There you go. Now, obviously, you're in Switzerland now. That you know you've the build up to Switzerland now. I believe you went the night before to the stadium before the game to get a wee feel for the stadium. What was that like?
Well, what had happened, Jed, was once we'd accepted the invitation, the gentleman kept in touch and he handed over the organisation of a trip to a lovely girl named Vivielli, one of the club representatives. They couldn't have done enough for us, Jed, in terms of organising the flights, hotels, trains, everything. They asked me to suggest, you know, what would be more suitable for us flying. Nothing was too much trouble. I actually felt, Jed, as if at one stage I could have said, can I bring the neighbours? And they would have said, that's fine, because it was just so lovely and accommodating. So we arrived in Zurich on the Friday and got the train to Bern. That was a part of the journey I really enjoyed. The scenery was beautiful. And we decided when we checked in at the hotel, we'd go and try and familiarise ourselves with Bern a little bit. So we went into Bern, the old town, and Joshua had insisted on wearing these hoops. Absolutely fine. People in Bern, the capital city of Switzerland, knew who Joshua was. The reason being is, firstly, because of the clip itself and the impact it had. And secondly, when all the organisation was done, I asked the kind permission of the club if I could share the news on social media that we were coming across. And they said, yeah. And very quickly that story was picked up because of the shares and the reposts, and one of the big Swiss media outlets covered it. So on that Friday afternoon, a kid walking about in Bern in green and white hoops, people knew who he was. People stopped me for selfies, weren't they?
Wow.
Waving to him in the street. A gentleman that was cycling past took a triple take and stopped and came down to speak to Joshua. All lovely. And that was on the Friday, the day before the game. So we decided to go to the stadium just to try and familiarise ourselves with the layout and what to expect the next day. And it was maybe 5 tram stops away from the hotel. And when we got to the stadium, it's different from Celtic Park, but unique in its own way. The way it was set out was outside the sort of main stand. It was like what we would describe as maybe a precinct, if you like.
Okay.
And there was, places for people to sit down and everything. It's a shopping centre underneath the stadium, so it was quite busy. But there was a little area that was set out for the kids to play football, a sort of specialised football pitch, if you like. And that's where you started playing football with the kids, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You want to tell Jed who you play football with?
I made a friend and his name's Jonas.
Jonas. Okay.
And very quickly they knew who I was, and then now they want to come to a game in Glasgow.
And do you know something? I want to re-emphasise that to the viewers today as well, and why it gripped me. Again, it doesn't matter what team you support. What this story is, this is one for UEFA. Do you know what I mean? This is a good news story, bringing fans together, making new friends, and just it's a real special story. And the interview is just getting better and better. I hope the excitement I've got coming through the camera here, because I'm absolutely loving this story. It's so heartwarming. You're saying here you met new friends, you met great journey of friends along the way. And now onto the match day itself, Joshua. Talk to us about the match day itself in Bern and the atmosphere and your experience. What was that like?
Noisy. Just felt brilliant. Great.
And also as well, I've got here as well, Kevin. When I was doing my research and just watching the just as a fan myself, watching the build up. It's just tell us about the pre-match experience and for yourself, Joshua's mum Angela and the family. And I believe there was a surprise for Joshua.
Oh yeah, Jed, what had actually happened with the organisation of the trip, again, the lovely girl Vivielli had, everything was organised down to a T. She emailed us across an itinerary, gave us a sort of time to meet, and we were to meet. The kick-off was Bern time 8:30, so we were to meet at the club clock at 6 o'clock, and from there Joshua would be given his, what I can only say now is a 5-star experience. What we'd done just before that is got to the stadium a little bit earlier. I'd contacted Jonas' dad, the kid that we met the day before, and I said, look, we're coming back to the stadium, can we meet up again? And him and Joshua played football for 15 minutes, and then Joshua gave him, do you want to tell Jade what you gave Jonas?
I gave him a bag with loads of Celtic stuff in it. Scarves, badges, stickers.
It was a little gift bag we gave him.
That's such a lovely thing to do, Joshua. So honestly, and that again, nice.
So we met at the clock at 6 o'clock, and Joshua had insisted on wearing these hoops again, which was fine. He had last year's kit, this season's kit. I think by the time we got back to Scotland, the Celtic jerseys could have walked to the washing machine themselves, So we met there at 6 o'clock. We were met by two people. One was Vivielli, who was the club representative who would, sort of take us around the ground. And the other one was a lovely fella named Adrian. We'd actually met Adrian the day before when we were at the stadium, when we were standing outside with Joshua wearing these hoops, and I think Adrian must have been finishing his work. And he walked out the stadium, and first thing he said was, "Hello, Joshua." So it was nice that, we had already formed that connection. So Vivielli was there, Adrian, and they then took Joshua, his mum, and myself into the stadium. And while we were walking across, even then, the fans that are gathering outside for the game are applauding Joshua and stopping him for selfies. It was lovely and surreal just to see that happening to your son. So we went into the ground, and the first part of the experience was to take us out into the stadium. The stadium was obviously empty 2.5 hours before kick-off, but the organisation for the game with the stewards and all that was going on. And Joshua was allowed onto the pitch. And you went onto the pitch, didn't you? And you scored a couple of great goals. You got the freedom of the pitch to run about. This is where this club were absolutely so right.
I was looking at the video as well. I believe it was a great flick, Joshua. Is that right?
Who did that come from?
Again, it must have been great for to share that with your son, Kevin, and be there. It's you really can't put a price on that.
It was lovely, Jed. It was just great. Joshua, a young 8-year-old with aspirations and football dreams, running about in a football pitch, scoring goals in a professional stadium. He's got the whole pitch to himself, and they captured it all on camera. It was great, and There's also a lovely part that was captured by Adrian, the videographer. Vivielli had told me 10 days before it about a special surprise for Joshua. And when she told him that surprise, I hadn't told him, they captured him at the moment he was told. Do you want to tell Jed what your special surprise was?
Go on, Joshua. Tell me, I'm so excited to hear it.
They told me that I would be a player escort, but they didn't tell me who I was walking out with. And when I went into the tunnel, I was one of them standing at the front, so I thought, I'm not going out with a player, I'm going out with the ref. And then Loris Benito said to one of the staff, is this Joshua? And then he said, Joshua, you're coming
That's a
with
club
me.
captain, Jed.
Club captain, all right. You walked out. You walked out with the club captain.
Yeah.
To a full stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that must have been so special. How did it feel to walk out to all that noise and everybody in the stadium knowing who you are? Never mind the club captain.
It felt brilliant. Brilliant.
There's a
Fantastic.
fair description there.
Oh, that yeah, and again, doing my research as well here. After the match, you walk out with the club captain. Does it get any better? But for me, I look here. How did it feel to look up to the big screen in the game and see yourself on that, Joshua? What was that like?
Spectacular.
And then again, I see that you went trackside for your post-match interview with a player meet and greet. Again, as I say, this interview is just getting better and better. What an experience that must have been.
It was a great experience.
But you've been getting used to the cameras by this point, wouldn't you? You're a celebrity in your own right. Yeah, absolutely. And now, and again, the gifts were going left, right, and centre, which is such a special touch. You presented a gift to the BSC young boys. What was that like?
Well, first of all, they were very happy. And the person that took us around the stadium, Vivielli, she put it in our office.
She did, yeah. She looked after it.
But
for
again,
us.
it's special for yourself, Joshua, for your mum and your dad. But to me, looking at this story, it's been special for them as well, Kevin.
Jed, it's, you can run out of superlatives to describe your emotions. To see your son, in that situation, fans of a huge club in Switzerland taking to him the way they did at Celtic Park, then the love they showed him in Bern, then, the club getting it so right for that experience. Going back to his pre-match experience, when we came off the park, we were taken into the museum then, and we got our own personal tour of the museum from a gentleman named Renee. That was a part that I loved myself. I love memorabilia. So that was really, really fascinating. Again, with Vivielli looking after us and Adrian, his videographer, sort of,
it was all captured as well.
Everything was captured. And then the gentleman, Shields, that had first made contact with us to invite us over, he'd arranged to come and get Joshua to take him to the players' tunnel where he would come out on the park with the team. They had said to me beforehand he would go out with the captain, and obviously I hadn't said to Joshua, but that in itself, just that gesture to recognise that he was captured on Swiss TV. There's the footage that the Swiss commentator, referring to him and the situation at Celtic Park, and it was great to watch that. We've got our own footage of it as well. Sadly, the game itself, BSC Young Boys lost a goal quite early, and although they got an equaliser back, it was the club golden boy Christian Fasnacht that got the equaliser. Couldn't get the win, and that was when they sort of slipped out the title race. But then, as you say, was his after-match experience. And the first part of that was when we were waiting at the bottom of the steps to go onto the trackside. We were waiting for all the television crews to finish their interviews with the players and manager and all that, and then we went on and Adrian interviewed Joshua and myself, and some of Joshua's interview was in the club's social media tribute a few days later. And from there was the the last part of the, if you like, experience, which was player meet and greet. And as we referred to Loris Benito earlier in the chat, the club brought out Loris Benito and Christian Fasnacht, who scored the equaliser, who spent many seasons at Young Boys. He transferred to Norwich in between and went back to the club at the end of January. It was really special. And what we'd taken over for the club was a gift for the club themselves. I'd had an idea in my head about something we wanted to do. And when I was saying to Joshua and his mum we should really take the club a gift over, Joshua said, can we send him a picture of me in my Celtic strip? And an idea sort of grew that we could get a picture together of Joshua wearing the strips of both clubs. And I took that idea to a gentleman called Neil at Renfrew Framing Art, and he brought it to life. And the picture symbolises friendship in football. Two clubs that have come together through a fair play act between a young Celtic supporter and the YB Oscar, the thousands of them at Glasgow that night, and we presented it to the club right at the end of the experience. What I would say about those two players, Jed, this is a captain of, at that stage, the Swiss Super League champions, and as I say, one of the biggest players at the club. These players knew exactly who Joshua was. They knew his story. They afforded him so much time. They showed him so much affection, so much love. The club got that part again absolutely so right, and it was lovely to sit and chat to them, and just in general the whole setup around that part was first class.
What a journey, Kevin. And as you said, and I said it during the interview there, and I'll say it again, this is one for UEFA. Absolutely, this is one. This is a great news story of how their the UEFA Champions League can bring fans together, no matter the team they support or the age. Respect.
I certainly hope so, Jed. I really do hope that could be the eventual outcome. The one final thing that happened in the stadium that night, just before we left, if we can go back to Celtic Park, and I referred to the fullback Jaween Hadjam that came across to the fans at the end. Do you want to tell Jed who the very last person we literally bumped into before we left the stadium?
Hakeem Hadjam.
A perfect end to a perfect story.
Totally, Jed. We just literally walked across each other's paths. He was going into an area that's reserved for the players, and Joshua's wearing these hoops, and it was, as I say, the players knew the story. And when we spoke to him and said we were at that part of the ground, he remembered it. It was just almost like, the perfect ending to a perfect experience. The where it started was where it sort of ended. It was lovely.
Unbelievable. Again, honestly. To have you, I'll reiterate that again, Joshua, to have you here today, to share. I know our viewers with Chit Chat with Jed and Co are just going to be so gripped to this. There's people watching this from all over the world. And after Bern, okay, you've been over to Switzerland. Did anything surprise you about the whole thing, Kevin?
Jed, it's a very relevant question you ask, and thank you for asking that. Yeah, there was two things that surprised me. As you can imagine, the moment Joshua and the YB Oscar went viral, I followed the club on all their social platforms. And from the moment we were invited, I was researching into the club, and I thought I knew a fair bit about it. First of all, I didn't realise how big the story was in Switzerland as a whole. Arriving in Zurich, as I said, Joshua's wearing these hoops. People in Zurich airport knew who he was because the story had gained momentum from the social posts about going over there. People in Zurich, people in the train knew who he was, as I explained, walking about Bern, people asking for selfies, all the fans knowing the story. I genuinely didn't realise how big the story was over there. Probably now looking back, that was quite naive of me because of the power of the
millions of views,
the views itself. And the second thing that I wouldn't say I was surprised, but I didn't actually realise how big a club BSC Young Boys actually are. 31,500 seater stadium, the second biggest stadium in Switzerland after St Jacob Park. In terms of the average attendances for the season just finished, it was an average attendance of 29,000, so the biggest average attendance in the country. The stadium itself is used for national games, national cup finals, open air events like concerts. At the moment, as we speak, the stadium, the pitch is ripped up and it's been turned into a grass surface for the Women's Euros that's taking place in Switzerland. But generally speaking, it's a artificial surface, so they use it for a lot of community stuff as well. The club itself, sadly, we didn't win the title this year, but prior to that, we'd won the title 5 times out of the last 6 seasons.
I've just observed there. That is incredible. That is incredible, and it just typifies what this has done for you, for most importantly, Joshua, yourself, and your Angela and your family. It's really bonded.
Totally, that club is well within us.
Yeah.
There's no question of that. So, didn't unfortunately win the title this year, but the history of the stadium, the outdoor stadium, it's the second stadium that's been on that position. The stadium was rebuilt and reopened in 2005. Prior to that, the stadium, when Switzerland held the World Cup in 1954, it hosted the World Cup final between Germany and Hungary. And that's when the famous Ferenc Puskas played in the final.
Yeah.
The club reached the European Cup semi-finals, season 58-59. And in terms of their tradition in the Champions League, they've taken some big scalps in the last few years. They've beaten Manchester United and Juventus at home. So a really, really big club, but not just that. The staff at the club are all big fans. They're all immersed in it emotionally. You could call it a community club. It's definitely much bigger than that. But yeah, that really, I wouldn't say surprised me, but I wasn't prepared for how big a club they actually were, Jed.
Indeed. And after coming home, how's the friendships with the fans today and all contact with the club, Kevin, in general terms?
Well, in terms of contact with the club, we came back late on the Sunday night, and as you do, you sort of dump your cases late at night and we'll see them in the morning. And the first thing I did in the Monday morning was a WhatsApp to Gentleman Shields that had invited us across. And I said, look, thanks for everything. Lovely to meet you. I'll send a proper email a little bit later in the week. The last thing they want on a Monday morning is my mail dropping into their inbox. So I sent the mail across, I think 4 or 5 days later, and thanked everybody. And bit by bit, people had covered in the mail came back. Jed, what was actually interesting about that mail that I sent probably first week in April now? I was going through my sent items looking for a particular mail maybe a week, 10 days or so ago, and I came across the email I'd sent to the club, and I happened to open it up. Jed, it was that size. I think I ran out of people in Bern to thank. But what was interesting for me, and in no way, shape or form was there anything wrong with it, was the emotion from myself in that email. This is Joshua's story. It's about his connection with the YB curve and the subsequent extraordinary follow-up from the club for Joshua to come across. But as his dad that's been with him on the journey, that took the footage, it's been a highly emotional experience for me and his mum. And reading back that mail, I saw exactly where I was when I wrote that mail. Don't get me wrong, it was absolutely fine, but it was packed with emotion. And as I said, I thanked absolutely everybody. In terms of the relationship today with the club and the fans, first of all, the club, the Gentleman Shields that invited us, we got a nice 10 minutes in the stadium to chat that night. It was nice to chat with the gentleman that actually reached out to us and been on a journey with us, and we sort of chatted away. And he made the point of saying, you're welcome here anytime. The door's always open, whether it's in the next couple of years or when Joshua's old and got his own family, the connection's there. And he made the point of saying that. And myself and all the people that looked after us, Adrian, the videographer, Vivielli, that took care of us for the trip, the gentleman Renee in the museum, Shields, we're all connected on social media now. So there's that connection there. The fans, they never cease to amaze me, those fans. Wonderful. As you can imagine, we're following their social media. Whenever we comment, whether it's myself or Joshua, you get some friend requests in the back of that. Then you get personal messages. Fans sending pictures of that day. Fans just loving being part of the story. But on a particular evening at the end of April, BSC Young Boys had a huge game. It was a Swiss Cup semi-final. And they lost the game. And Joshua wrote on my Facebook, he said, can I write on it? He said, do you remember what you wrote on the post that evening?
Hi, it's Joshua. Disappointing lose, should have won.
Again, we.
Yeah, I mean, fair play to pick up on that, Jed.
Brilliant.
He said how sad he was. And on that particular comment, I got a friend request from a lady named Karina, who's a big BSC Young Boys fans. And from that, her young son, Julianos, sent a message for Joshua. And you and Julianos started to chat, didn't you?
Yeah.
And do you want to tell Jed what's happened from there?
So at one point, how much of a friend I was with him, I sent a package with all Celtic stuff, with stickers, flags, and then day of my dad's birthday, they sent me a gift, and these are all the stickers.
All the stickers you've got with you. I see them there today. That's just incredible. Again, it's just what a wonderful, wonderful, good, happy story, Joshua. And again, I'll reiterate, our viewers are going to be absolutely gripped to your story, because that takes me, because we're nearly finished. I could go on for days and days with this. This story is going to continue. Is there a part 3 to this story, Kevin?
I think there has to be, Jed. You know, when Joshua speaks about the kids that he's now in the chat group, the Bern Bears 24 chat group, Joshua sent gifts across to them, Celtic memorabilia. They've sent some stickers across to him. There's so much between, the fans we've met over there. One of the very, very first fans to connect with us on social media was a lad named Pascal, who we met over in Bern, who looked after us, made sure we were on the right train and all that. He's in touch all the time. There's so much love there. Part 3 has to come from me. First of all, part 1 was Joshua and the YB Oscar connecting, as they did beautifully at Celtic Park.
Yeah.
Part 2 was the club following up on behalf of the club and the fans to invite Joshua, his mum and myself to Switzerland. Part 3 is my responsibility, if you like. I've already said to the fans and to the club that I'll take Joshua back across in September, October. His birthday is in September. If we can find a game around his birthday and try and go across then, and what we'll do is we'll sync it with a Celtic, whether a home game or away game. And the reason I say that is we could watch that with the Switzerland Celtic Supporters Club. They reached out to us during the trip, and we spent some time with them as well. So watch a YB game one day, Celtic game with the Switzerland Celtic Supporters Club the next, or vice versa. But we have a unique and lovely situation here where my 8-year-old son is now connected to a club in Europe, and as I say, not just, it's a really, really big club. So I want to make sure that if we can get the dates right, the club have said, keep in touch, the door's always open. We get the dates right, we'll get across there, we'll meet up with our friends. A couple of my friends have indicated from, what I fed back to them, they would like to join us in the trip as well.
I know a chat show that maybe want to come and film that.
Well, that chat show is more than welcome to come and film it.
That sounds amazing.
And we'll go across and we'll meet our friends again, and again see where it takes us. But the lady that reached out to us and the kids from Bern Bears 24 chat, they want to meet with Joshua. we'll meet up again with Jonas, won't we? You met at the stadium, and like the fans, like young Pascal I was referring to, Switzerland Celtic Supporters Club, all the fans that are reaching out in social. I think we'll have a queue of people wanting to speak to Joshua.
Absolutely, and I tell you what, our viewers will be wanting to come as well, Joshua, because I'll tell you, that was just the most, and to have you again, I've said it quite a few times during the show, to have you here, Joshua, to share your story with Chit Chat with Jed and Co. I'm truly humbled, and thank you very much. And finally, Kevin, is there anything else you would wish for this story?
Yeah. It's Joshua's story. It's about his connection with the fans and subsequently the club as well. As Joshua's dad, being on a journey with him, as I said, it's a highly emotional experience. For me, my dream in all of this is for the YB Oscurve and BSC Young Boys as a club to have some form of recognition for this. You've spoken about the UEFA thing there. There must be some form of football and fair play body out there that would recognise this. A young 8-year-old kid embracing 2,500 fans and vice versa. And if in any way, shape or form we could have those fans and that club recognised for the love that they've shown our son and for the experience they afforded our son and our family, Bern, that would top it all off for me. It would be the happiest of endings. And finally, Jed, the two fans we spoke of earlier on that played such a pivotal part in this lovely storyline, well, we reached out to the club and they arranged for us to meet up in Bern so Joshua could say a personal thank you to both of them with a gift he chose from the Celtic Superstore.
Perfectly put, Kev. Honestly, perfectly put.
Thank you, Jed.
And, you know, I know a lot of people will be watching this from all over the world. And you're right. This is a good news story. It's a good news story. But no matter the team you support, bringing fans of all ages together. And that's the beauty, and that's what football can do.
It's so relevant, Jed. There's people that I've worked with in the past that support teams in England.
Yeah. That
saw the exchanges when it went viral. There's people from clubs up here that have warmed to the story. There's been no end of love. And our viewers are going to absolutely love it. Joshua McLaughlin, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. What's the last thing you say? What's the little phrase that they say over in Bern?
Happy day.
There you are. Kevin.
Thank you, Jed.
A pleasure.
Thank you for inviting us on the show.
You're very welcome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show for Chit Chat with Jed and Co. Can we ask you please subscribe free to our YouTube channel, comment and give us a like. Today's show is sponsored by St Mirren legend Tony Fitzpatrick's Legacy Comps Prize Bonanza. Please give them a follow at legacycomps.com. Thank you for watching.